It's Thursday. You know what time it is. Time for the hottest new wrestling podcast on the planet, Beyond the Barricade, with your hosts, Dollar Bill, the Cleaner, and the Brain. Let's get started.
All right. In throwing around some subjects for tonight, we came up with one where last week we talked about what our favorite things in a promotion has and how a promotion can get our money. This week, we kind of want to expand upon that topic and go into more of what it takes to run a good promotion. So, just to emphasize, we want to talk more about from our point of views and also from our experiences what we've seen made promotions work. We're not going to tell you how to run one. There's a lot of people out there that can do that. So let's start off with let's see. Let's start with some basic ideas on what we see makes a promotion run well, as in that we've noticed.
I mean, I can go back and talk about maybe like that first couple years of AEW. The one thing that they still preach to this day is like you it's more than a team, it's a family. You don't feel like you're in a corporate environment. You're not scared of losing your job. You're not scared of going to the boss to run some ideas. So it's like it's you got to have that environment, that friendly environment.
Agreed. The boss has to be approachable and amenable to ideas that you're coming up with that could put more asses in the seats.
Yep,
Hmm.
sell more tickets. Because
Yes.
even if it's a small venue, like so last night I was at Deadlock Pro and they came
Yeah, tell
to
us about it.
they came to the Mecca in Jersey or in Ridgefield Park, New Jersey. And so at first they set the attendance record for that building. I guess it's a very popular building for pro wrestling.
Yeah, it
And
has.
yeah, these guys were able to sell it out. And it reminded me a lot of those Reseda PWG days because the action was hard hitting. There was some moves that to me still are like I can't wrap my mind around like what some of these guys were able to pull off, you know. And it's a small building, but the fans were very, very loud.
It's a
Like,
very small building. I've been there.
yeah,
I
it's
actually I actually worked a show there one time.
oh, okay. But yeah, like I was saying, it's a small building,
Hmm.
but the fans were loud, and that like when the fans are loud, that could really change the entire presentation for the audience at home.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Changes the presentation for the wrestlers too,
Yeah,
because it shows that the crowd is really into it and they put a little bit more effort into their matches.
yeah, because especially like that's the biggest fear for wrestlers
A dead
that I've
crowd.
heard so many times. Yes, is a dead crowd. They don't
Yeah.
care if like they're a babyface and they get a negative or heel reaction, or vice versa. They're
Right.
worried that if they go out there,
They get no
no noise,
reaction.
yeah, no reaction. That's the sign of you're doing a bad job.
Yeah. It's like it's like either a good reaction, like positive, like cheers. You can get the heat on, the booze, which they can go either way.
Technically, they're both good reactions.
Exactly. But when you get to the point, when you get to the apathy one, where the apathetic, where you don't care, or it's a bathroom break match, or it's like you're basically just looking at your phones and talking to other people, or it's like you're
Yeah,
not even paying attention to the ring, that's definitely a bad sign.
yeah, that
Yeah,
could kill a show.
Oh yeah.
definitely. We've all been to shows like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's been times where I felt like sometimes I was gonna fall asleep, like
Hmm.
legitimately.
Yeah,
And that's like not even a knack on the wrestlers or anything. It's just the way it is. Sometimes what you're doing is not working, and then everything just feels to fall flat. And then next thing you know, you got the camera that pans on that one dude who's completely out.
hmm.
Yeah, just like falling asleep like that.
And then the announcers have a field day with that.
Oh, everybody online has a field day with it.
Absolutely.
Chanting, wake the F up, wake the F up.
The guy he wakes up and he's got two wrestlers right in his face.
Yeah.
This is not a dream. This is your nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. But then again, there have been times that we've all been to shows and we can't hear the person talk sitting next to us talking to
No,
saying something to us because the crowd is so into it and so loud.
yeah.
Perfect
It-
example of some shows that we've been to that are absolutely insane.
Hmm,
the one thing I
Ring
could
of Honor.
think, yeah, Ring
of
of
course.
Honor. Like one
Jersey All
moment,
Pro.
Ring of Honor. One moment I could bring up is when at least recent history, Hangman doing that dive at the
Oh
Hammerstein
yes.
Ballroom,
Hmm.
the whole building went nuts.
That was meant MM7, right? Was that MM7
Uh,
or was that a final battle?
no, that was Manhattan Mayhem, either 7 or 8.
Mm.
It's seven because
Yeah, we were at that show.
yeah,
Yeah.
because the
The
next one was
place
unnumbered.
absolutely blew apart when he
Yes.
did that dive.
For those that may not notice or remember, specific just think in your mind Psychosis when he did the backflip off the Hammerstein Ballroom at ECW One Night Stand.
Yeah, that was
Substitutes, yeah, it was literally the same thing. So
yeah.
substitute Psychosis for Hangman, and they were landing on SCU. No, not SCU. They were landing on the Kingdom, Shane Taylor, and the rest of the Elite.
So pretty much from the second floor, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He did a
Okay.
backflip.
Off the balcony.
Yep.
So let's go into that a little bit because it's something interesting. So one of the things also promotion you just noticed about the way that wrestlers are. So when they were ways running promotion, you would say parties to hire the talent, but we all know that there's that like running any business, hiring talent all comes down to the money involved.
I would sometimes argue against that
Explain,
because
please.
two men we could talk about is the Briscoes,
Okay.
who have been loyal to Ring of Honor because they have been approached by TNA when it was much better shape than it is today. They were approached by WWE. They were approached by AEW when it was starting out, before they had uh the TNT deal. But they were always loyal to Ring of Honor. It was never about the money with them. And I think, yes, for some people that is very true that it's all about the money. But there are others where sometimes the money isn't always the most important thing. So you
Hmm.
want to sign in a place that's going to make you feel welcome and feel like family. Two people
And
you
Ring
could
of Honor
think of.
definitely does that.
Ring of Honor definitely does that. Two people I was going to bring up, Brian Danielson and Adam Cole. They were both free agents around the same time. They both wanted to sign with WWE. Both wanted to sign them back, but they chose AEW. Now, then again, AEW could very well match what WWE offers, but they didn't choose AEW because of the money at that time.
Mm, right.
They wanted a
They
different environment.
Adam Cole wanted to be back with his friends.
Yeah.
And yeah, Brian Danielson wanted a different environment. He wanted to be a wrestler again.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
those are two situations that come up to my mind in terms of sometimes it's not about the money. But like I said, yeah, for others, it's totally about the money.
Right.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm talking about especially running the promotion because you still have to provide somewhat of of cash to actually run it. Because we've seen in the past where there's promoters that will hire wrestler A, the wrestler A does a show, and then oh wait, they didn't get paid. Or they got
Yeah,
paid just enough. I mean, that's always been a struggle with a lot of wrestlers is finding that paycheck, that payout, I mean,
yeah.
sorry, where they make something out of it instead of just doing it with a promised money and they end up with nothing.
Right.
Yeah, and that's why like one thing ECW when they went out of business, Paul Heyman has said in multiple interviews since that the one thing he wish he could have done for ECW is have a finance department to be
Yeah.
able to handle those finances and to update him about those finances because that's the one thing you have to do is I think the biggest budget you should have as a promoter and the biggest thing as a promoter you should look at is what are you going to set as your roster budget and how to calculate everybody's rates to make sure you don't go over that budget.
Hmm.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Because there have been promoters out there who've promised wrestlers upwards of a couple $1,000s to make an appearance.
Mhm.
They make the appearance, they do their match, and the promoter's gone before the show is over,
Yeah.
and nobody
Oh,
gets
yeah.
paid.
Oh,
Yeah.
I remember hearing about some of the shows like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was common.
Oh, it happens all too often.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And that's
now
why
people think,
you always tell wrestlers, especially the up and coming ones, to always do their research about promoters.
Yep,
Make sure you're
definitely.
going for the right people. You're working for the right people that will treat you well
Right,
and treat
yeah.
you like family to where you would want to come back.
exactly.
Yeah, back then it'd be a lot was a lot harder without the
Yeah.
advent of social media.
Yeah.
It was pretty much word of mouth, and you had to
Yeah.
find out from this other guy and this other guy, whoever's actually been there. It's like, hey, how's this federation working or
Hmm.
promotion?
One promotion that was top notch when it came to making sure the guys were taken care of was
Mhm.
Jersey All Pro.
Mm,
Jersey All Pro was top notch when it came to making sure that the wrestlers were taken care of and that they were paid. They were paid on time. They were paid right after as soon as their match was over, they were being paid.
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah,
Yeah.
much
I
needed.
mean, nobody was waiting till the end of the show to get paid. You finished your match, you came back, you sat down, you had something to drink, and whoever was in charge of the money at that night was coming over to you with an envelope, handing you your envelope for the night.
Yeah. And especially you would want to do the 50-50 thing where you pay wrestlers half of it up front, then
Right,
half of it at the end of the show.
right. That's how they did it most of the times. Because I talked to a bunch of the guys, and
Mhm.
that's how they told me that they did it.
Hmm.
One thing I also want to ask is mostly about the financing of it because I always thought from my experiences, and I know I'm wrong, but I've always been told that the money is sort of taken out from the I guess you could say the profits that was made from the attendance.
Yes,
So they would
yeah,
take all that money that was made from attendance and then they would just shell it out to the wrestlers.
yeah. Because
A good portion
usually,
of that, yeah.
yeah, especially like those lower promotions, yeah, they're pretty much their main source of revenue is ticket sales. But then obviously, as you get bigger and bigger, maybe you get some sponsorships, maybe you get a TV deal, like AEW, WWE, their main source of revenue is their TV deals. Then it comes the ticket gates. Then
Mm,
it's merchandise because they're big enough to do their own merchandise, you
Hmm.
know? So there's
Definitely.
multiple paths of revenue for the bigger companies, but for the lower companies, it's pretty much ticket sales. I mean, unless they work a cut the merchandising and the concessions and the uh the autographs, the meet and greets.
I
But
always,
it's we'll
I'm sorry.
say no, you go ahead.
I was gonna say when it comes to because you also had announced about the interviews and the meet and greets and
Mhm.
merchandising. Now, because we've seen in the past where a lot of the guys, especially with set up their own little tables, their own little booths and whatnot.
Yeah.
So does the promotion get a cut from them hosting their own table? Like you know,
Um,
They might have to rent a space. I know some of the
yeah.
vent at a lot of the shows we've gone to, they have guys who come in with the DVDs and the VHS tapes, the
Yeah.
action figures, the T-shirts, the masks, everything, and those spaces are rented out to them for maybe $1,000 for the day.
Yeah. And
yeah.
I think also like I think it's the bigger talents like when they have a VIP guest.
They'll
I
spot them the table.
Yeah, they'll spot them at the table, but that's also run with the promotion, and they
Hmm.
pretty much split everything. Like half will go to the promoter, half will go to the VIP guest.
Hmm.
Mm. Because I know in conventions, it's what conventions do is the convention actually rents out the table space to the vendor. So, but the price depends on also where the venue is located. So so it
Yeah,
goes like a double way with that. Like the venue charges X for the space, the promoter
yeah.
would charge Y, and then pretty much the vendor would pay Z for it, like that.
Because usually the by the time the show, the venue is already paid off.
Hmm.
So like depending on whatever the price is, that venue has already been paid for that night. Because if they, I doubt that event would happen if the renting price by the promoter wasn't paid.
Yeah, like they wouldn't show
Yeah,
up.
definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
or they wouldn't be allowed in the building.
Right.
yeah. Like if I were to get a table there for say $50 for example, if I don't pay the $50, I ain't getting the table.
I think if there are
Exactly.
people that are on the show, like wrestlers on the show, I
Hmm.
think they're giving tables for free. I'm not 100% sure, not 100% sure, but that's what I'm assuming.
Look, we'll definitely have some people in the future to ask about that.
Oh yes,
Yes,
yes, we
yes.
definitely will.
Yeah, let's get to that in this. We'll get to that in a bit.
All
So
will be revealed in due time.
indeed,
Indeed.
indeed.
Jinx, you owe me a soda.
All right, so then moving on a little bit more, so more a little deeper into running into how to run a good promotion. Well, not how to run, but what so we see and make one. Brandon has actually been the EMT for many of the promotions. He's had a lot of experience with it, so
Yes, I have.
he
Yeah,
could fill us in about the medical terms because as much as people love the normies, love to say, "Oh, wrestling's fake" and whatnot, I think the brain can save a lot of experience what is and what isn't, especially
yes.
in regards to physicalities.
Yeah. I mean the a lot of the stuff that you see, it's choreographed. Before the guys go out there, yeah, they know what they're gonna do. They know what they're gonna do at each section of the match, and they have it all planned out. But injuries happen. The injuries are without a doubt the realest part of wrestling. You know, the blood is real, the injuries are real. Cleaner, you, me, Jack, and Bobby,
Yeah,
we all saw one really nasty one.
yeah, yeah.
You and Bobby almost got taken out by that incident.
No, no, no. Bobby already had like walked away. I was
Okay.
still there, so I was almost taken out. Um, the incident we're referring to is back in 2016, Calm Before the Storm.
Hmm.
Jersey
It
All
was
Pro, Calm Before the Storm, Marist High School.
the former Marist High School.
Yeah, former.
Yes.
Now it's a
Yeah,
landfill.
yep.
Yeah, it's
Um,
the only
yeah,
thing left is the sign.
yep, yep. So basically what happened was there was a four-way match. Joey Janela, I remember, is the only person involved besides Danny Demano,
Grim
who,
Reaper was in it.
okay, Grim Reaper. And
I literally just watched that clip
do you remember who was
5
the
minutes
fourth?
ago. I think it was Azriel.
Because the only one I remember is Joey. He's the
Okay.
only other one I remember
Yeah,
besides
Joey
Danny
was
Demano.
definitely there. As I think it was Azriel and Grim Reaper was in the match.
So it was a four-way, best of the light heavyweights.
Hmm.
And so basically they had gone to the outside. Now this setup did not have a lot of space to the ring.
No, it did
I
not.
was I was a front row seat. I could basically reach out and touch the ring. That's how much.
I was a front row seat on the corner opposite where it happened.
Mhm. Yeah, and
I was sitting with Jack.
it was there was not enough space. And the barricades, this is the only time I've actually seen it. The barricades were so small. Like
Yeah, it was so
I could
thin.
sit down and still like
See
not
over
have
it.
any, yeah, see over it, like not have any obstruction. So I remember three of them come out to the side and Danny Demano starts climbing up to the top rope and I'm looking up. I'm like so close to it that I could literally just like jump into the pile.
Yeah,
I was that close.
you almost became part of the pile.
Yeah, I almost became part of the pile. Next thing I know, he does a moonsault off the top rope,
Uh-huh.
completely misses the three wrestlers. And because I went like this.
Right.
to like
Like
get
you
out
pretty much
to
but
like out.
you had your hands up on your
You were
hip
covering up
face.
Yeah, yeah,
for
just
protection.
Yeah.
covering up, and I felt it on my leg. I felt the barricade like run down my leg, and I was like, oh shit. So I checked myself. Thankfully, I was fine.
Right.
And then I see Danny DeMano literally right in front of me, and like his leg is in not like it looks like it's not supposed to look like that.
Yeah, this is
Like
it's not.
yeah,
It's
and
not supposed to
so
bend that way.
yeah,
No,
it
it's
was
not.
not. It was not.
It's not
And
supposed to twist that way.
I remember I go down and I look like I bend over like this, and I'm like, Danny, are you okay? And he's like, no, I'm not. And I'm like, oh fuck, and I just froze. Excuse my language, but I just froze.
Yeah,
Right.
don't worry about it.
Yeah,
Remember,
and I remember you,
this
John,
show
you would come
this
in.
show is NSFK.
All right. Yeah, we know the NSFW stuff, but
Yeah.
let's keep going.
But yeah, so John had rushed in, and I'm just like standing there frozen. And you know what I realized? Another person that was there that helped out is a kid named Bobby Cavanaugh. He
He
was
was working for McCabe that night.
yes,
He's the one who
yes,
showed up to take him to the hospital.
yes. And I remember how I was frozen. I was like, oh my God, because like you could tell
He
he's
broke his
not,
femur.
yeah,
He
he's
broke his
not
femur.
selling. No, this is a shoot. And yeah, like you said, he broke his femur.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe he would not have broken his leg had he hit me.
No, you
I don't
probably,
know.
but then you probably been knocked out, and maybe you would have been in the
Yeah.
hospital.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Then that would have got me a job.
But you know what? Not for nothing. Once we got him stabilized and onto the backboard, like I think you were one of them and a couple other fans helped
Mhm.
carry him out to the ambulance, out to the stretcher. The ambulance.
Um, I don't think I was
No?
one of them. No, because I was with Rob, RPM, and one of the security guards, and we were just standing there talking.
Oh, okay. But
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 yeah,
getting
yeah,
on to other
well,
injuries that we've seen.
this is not an injury story, but this is the thing about like paramedics, right? So like New Jersey, you just need a one EMT certified person on staff. But when you're in New York, you have to have a ambulance on site.
Hmm.
And so the last New York show that I went to before the pandemic was New Japan. Strong Style Evolved, and they were running the Hammerstein Ballroom. And it was going to be a big night because one of the things they were doing that night was the Tiger Tour retirement. He was on his retirement tour, and it was his last US show, so they were going to give him like a nice little send off. But the thing is, the show was supposed to start at 8.
Mhm.
It didn't start until about 9:15, 9:30. And
Because
the
the
reason
ambulance
is
never showed up.
ambulance never showed up until an hour and a half in. And there were even rumors that it might have been like WWE's doing. Somebody on behalf of WWE had called in to get the ambulance off site. Because that's the whole big rumor is that it was sabotage.
Hmm.
And it was either in response for doing G1 Supercard. That's the rumor. I'm not 100% sure. I mean, that that's what I go with because, my anti WWE persona.
You heel.
But
pretty much.
well, I'm a
No,
baby face.
no. Let me
I'm the baby
rephrase that.
face.
He's the tweener. You're the
Right?
tweener.
The
But
tweener.
Dollar Bill's the face. I'm the heel. You're the tweener.
but yeah, so like we were sitting there watching the Boston show while waiting for because I didn't one thing I remember about 45 minutes in, the president of New Japan, either the
Right.
president of New Japan or the president of New Japan America had come out
Right.
and in his broken English tried to apologize. And and like the way he did it made me think something was seriously wrong. I was like, "Oh my God, what's happening? What's happening?" Like I was legitimately scared. And
Right.
then Rocky Romero comes out, tries to save face, and he's like, he he explains like, "Hey, we're running a little late. There's technical difficulties backstage. We'll
Hmm.
let you know." And he
Okay.
started throwing out t-shirts, and I was like, okay, nothing major happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go a little bit short, like time because this is one of those topics where it's a lot more involved than we give it
Yeah, we could
credit
talk
for.
about this
Yeah.
forever.
So,
Yeah.
but the
We could
one thing
revisit this on other shows.
but the one thing you also touched upon, sabotage. Now we know about competition. It's like a common thing in whatever you do in entrepreneurship. There's always got by competition.
Right.
So how would a good like if you were running? I don't want to. We want to say if you run a promotion, but we could put this one for an exception. What would be the best way to handle competition and possible sabotage event attempts? Because we've seen it also. I've also personally seen it happen in one of Ring Honor shows where they had that fire marshal come in because I think it was something with ECW, calling stuff out, and that was way back in the Murphy
Yeah.
Rec Center. But so, what have some? What would be some options like try to
Like
circumnavigate this?
I would say the most obvious thing is just to put on a better show. That's plain and simple.
Absolutely.
Just put on a better show. I mean, there's not really much competition. Like, especially nowadays, there's not so much turmoil between, like, let's say Ring of Honor and TNA or AEW and MLW or something like that. Like, there's only two. I mean, hell, like now a lot of the companies in Japan are starting to work with each other again.
Hmm.
They just announced both Super Junior Festival here in the United States that's going to involve many of the junior heavyweights from around the entire world, and even in New Japan, or in Japan, I should say, they're running a what's being called as All Together, and it's going to be a super show
Mhm.
combining talents from New Japan, All Japan, and Pro Wrestling Noah. So there's
That's going
not
to be an
this
insane show.
a
Oh,
very it's
definitely,
going to
no
be an
doubt.
amazing show, and this is what I'm happy to see is like those companies working
The
together again.
collaboration instead of the competition.
Yeah, and there's really like two major like wrestling wars that's going on right now, and it's only WWE versus everybody
Hmm.
and AAA and CMLL. Now, obviously, that second one doesn't really matter outside of Mexico because it still is hard for the Mexican companies to get exposure elsewhere. But in terms of, here the WWE, they like to not mention everybody else. Like,
Yeah.
if it doesn't happen in the WWE world, it doesn't
It
matter.
doesn't exist.
I see that in the fans too a lot.
Hmm.
Yeah, so like the story I brought up, like there's so many stories of WWE sabotage.
And then
Not
you
really
also have the invasion
against,
angles.
yeah. Well, not even the invasion angles. Those are staged. Those are
Yeah,
worked,
I know that, but
But
sometimes they're not.
what I'm talking about is like stuff like uh how Vince at the last second booked a show to go up against Spring Stamp or not Spring Stampede, one of the NWA shows in the 80s. And like how many times has he raided talents from other companies, like
Yeah.
major talent raids? So there's a lot of like WWE sabotage against, or I should say Vince McMahon sabotage against other companies.
Yeah. So
Yeah, because I've noticed that even in Triple H's regime, we could say, lack of a better term, you didn't really hear as much about any sabotage or anything like that.
But then again, he's only been in power for a year,
Yeah, still, yeah, true.
You're
It's
kind like we're talking about a guy who's only been in control officially for a year compared to somebody that ran the company for about 40.
exactly. He
yeah,
hasn't had a chance to do much yet.
Yeah,
So
and we it's going to be very hard to see somebody as big as WWE because we haven't seen that since WCW went under.
right,
That was the last time we had a company on equal level with WWE.
right.
yeah,
So
it's been a
they're
while.
not gonna pull out those tactics until you get. I mean, we've seen some of it with AEW. Like they were legit terrified of AEW when they first started because they went
Yeah,
on
they are.
that signing spree.
Yep, they sure did.
So now that it is a little different today, but AEW still has some time to go before they're on the level of WWE.
And agreed.
And one thing
So
I wish AEW would stop doing is calling out WWE because I feel like it's kind of cheapening the product a little bit. It's like if you want to get better in WWE, just build it. Don't worry about what WWE is doing.
I
Worry
mean,
about
the thing
make your own stuff
is,
there.
I like don't get me wrong, this not a the
Hey, Vin,
Undertaker came back. Undertaker came back. Oh no, we got a dark crowd here.
all
Um, hold on, let me see.
right, listen, I'm gonna have to cut you off there,
Yeah, go
cleaner.
ahead.
All right, because we have one more thing we got to talk about before we cut this night off.
Yes. Oh yes, we must make
He's
this
gone.
announcement.
Yes, next week the podcast is having its first special guest. Who it will be, you'll have to pay attention to the web pages.
Yes,
You'll
we
have to
might
pay
drop
attention to
hints.
Facebook. You have to pay attention to Twitter. We are on Twitter. We are on YouTube and Spotify.
What's the
And
at?
and also we dropped a couple of hints tonight too.
Hmm.
Oh,
That's
did we?
Yes, we
well,
did.
that's partially why we talked about running a promotion. Hmm.
It's Adam Cole. We got Adam Cole.
All right.
What the hell is he running?
On Twitter, we have the podcast Twitter is at BTB Podcast 34. YouTube is Beyond the Barricade Podcast. And we have an
Facebook.
email if people want to send in suggestions for topics or have a question for us. ultimatebtbpodcast@gmail.com. That's ULTEMT btbpodcast@gmail.com. And on Spotify, Beyond the Barricade Podcast, Wrestling Podcast.
All right. So there we go with the show plugs and the possible guests for our next show, which will be episode 9. So stay tuned to the Twitter, stay tuned to Twitter, Spotify, to Facebook. Do drop us some hints here and there as the time gets closer.
Yes,
Much
indeed.
closer.
Yes, indeed.
All right.
Final
So
thoughts, gentlemen.
closing thoughts. Let's see.
Cleaner?
Um, basically, no, I don't. Tried
That's a
to drag it
first.
out. Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
I won't. I'll never shut up, but now I can't talk.
It
Well, it's about
happens.
time.
So this is
Oh,
Dollar
trust
bill?
me, you'll
I was
be. Oh, I was just gonna say you're gonna be quiet after this week.
definitely. So my final thoughts is that for all the talk about people saying that they can run a promotion, it always feels like there's so much they don't see behind the scenes, whether it comes to booking, whether it comes to actually booking the matches that make some sort of cohesive sense, when it comes to getting the arena, the venue, and also finding out legality what the hell you need in regards to EMT. Like you said, New Jersey needs one EMT, whereas New York needs one ambulance.
Yep.
You know, and
So
also
And
security.
yeah,
with two
ev-
EMTs.
Yes, and
everybody has their own different laws to abide by.
exactly.
Mhm.
And then also you have to really pay your talent out as well as also your workers, the ring
Yep.
crew, the camera crew, the referees and everybody. So there's a lot that goes into it, and we'll talk more about that another time.
Yes, indeed. But
All right,
once again, I think another time we're going to get into the craziest stuff we've ever seen at a wrestling show.
and
Yes.
that's a good
That's
topic.
definitely going to be a great topic. That might end up being a two-parter because we've all been watching wrestling most of our lives, and there's been crazy stuff that we've seen over the years that
Okay, and
just can't wait.
yes, indeed. So on that note, we will see you later.
All right, gentlemen, as always, too sweet. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.